Hi, I'm here to wrap up some of the books that I read recently, and I also want to discuss a mini project that I have going on. And I suppose I should haul a couple of books because I have a mini book haul for you. Well, for me. To wrap up, I would like, in the future, I want to do weekly wrap-ups because I will be consuming more books from here on out. Mini life update. I kind of sort of took on more hours with my second job, which is when I do cleaning, which requires zero brain activity. So I just listen to books while I work. And I now work for like 5.5 hours every night. So that's a lot of bookage. So I'm going to be consuming more and more, I think, via audiobook, which also means that I have less time to physically read at home because I was reading before bed, but now I get home at like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, I have been reading, but not as much as, this is the book I'm currently reading, and I'm really close to the end, but it's slow going because I'm tired. I get sleepy really quickly. But anyway, that's why we read at night, right? Anyway, books that I have finished. These are books that I finished at the end of September and last week, through last week. So let's start there. We got The Assassin's Apprentice. Yes, by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy, which I've never read before, and it was so cute. I know that's a weird word to use when you've got the word assassin in the title, but it was adorable, in a way. It's about this kid. He's dropped off at the steps of the kingdom and the king, and the kid's alleged grandfather says, hey, this kid belongs to, he's your bastard grandchild, or to Prince Chivalry. That's what I love about this book, the names of people. It's funny. Anyway, so the king's like, yeah, all right. So he takes the kid in, and he decides to essentially train him to become part of his court, but he's going to be an assassin. And then his, I guess she could be her stepmother, steps in and says, I want him trained for this skill. It's called the skill. And the kid actually has a secret magical skill called the will, which is when he can read the minds of dogs and kind of see what they're seeing. It's really kind of cute. It's like telepathy, dog telepathy. So I gave this book 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. I liked the characters. I like that he's riding around on a horse named Sooty, and I love his connection with the dogs. It just made me so happy. But I mean, it's very traumatizing things that happen in here, but it's very much like a typical fantasy, but it's fun, and I will be continuing on with this series. I read this for the Marauders Book Club, which is a Facebook book club. I'll link it down below too, so if you want to join. We pick a theme. There's usually like a theme every month, but we take our time to pick out a book each month, and so it's group chosen book, and then we can discuss at the end of the month. And we had a little discussion about this. It was late, but we had it early, actually this month. But anyway, I'll be continuing with this. Now, I will tell you, this is where I'll talk about my mini project. And that is that I am trying to consume all of the 6 books that are on the Booker shortlist before the actual shortlist is narrowed down to one winner. I wanted to pick who I felt was my favorite book, or who I felt was going to be the winner, and then, we'll find out who wins the prize. This is in reaction to last year having the dual winner of Margaret Atwood and Bernardine Evaristo. It's Evaristo. I keep wanting to call her Evernesto, but anyway, in reading both books this year, I clearly felt that Evaristo's book was the clear winner between the two, and so I wanted to have the opportunity to decide for myself who should win, and then, you know, have that negated by other people who know how to read lit differently, I guess. I don't know. The first book that I consumed from that list is Sammy Bane by Douglas Stewart. This is the book that I was least looking forward to because in reading the synopsis, it felt a lot like Where the Crawdads Sing. And the more time I take away from that book, I'm just like, I didn't care for it as much as the general community did. And so I like it. I'm of like unpopular opinion about it, I guess. But I was really skeptical about liking this book. And I absolutely loved it. So I read this on audiobook, but the audio and the ebook were available to me on Hoopla. So I did listen to this, and then and now I'm like currently rereading it because I liked it an awful lot, and I have to pull so many quotes from it. And so these are the notes that I've taken from Hoopla. The story is about, it focuses primarily on Shuggy and his mother, who is an alcoholic, and they are living in Ireland, and this is during the 80s when there's no jobs, the economy is shit, and there's really nothing to look forward to. This book is about Shuggy and his mother pretty much at the same time. We focus primarily on the story of his mother because she is suffering with alcoholism, and it's how she affects everyone around her and how Shuggy deals with that. What I absolutely loved about this book were the characters. Shuggy himself, who's like this bright spot in the entire novel, but it's how he reacts to things and how he manages to survive in spite of not being given any real skill. I loved the dialogue in this book. It just got me. I know part of it would be due to, who is it? Is Agnes King? He did the narration, and it's really well done. So I do highly recommend this as an audiobook. It does feel a little long, which is why I didn't give it like 5 stars initially, but it may be bumped up over time. We'll have to tell. Well, only time will tell. I gotta finish a reread of this first, so. The next book that I completed was Real Life by Brandon Taylor. This book follows Wallace, who is gay and black student living in the Midwest, but he comes from Alabama, and he's the only black person in his social circle, and that is pretty much what drives this book. And this is a contemporary novel. He's a biochem major, and I think he's getting his master's degree, and he's been kind of hiding out from his friends and avoiding social situations because his father had recently died, and he didn't want people questioning that. So when he does confide in one of his friends and tell her about the death of his father, and then the information gets loose, people start to really kind of question why he's not grieving and why he's just like kind of chill about things and cavalier about his death. The core of this story kind of strikes upon false allyship and white privilege and performative activism and lack thereof, and that is something that really strikes for someone who is white. It's something that white people should be consuming, which is great, but I was freaking bored reading this whole book. Not the whole book. At first I was really getting into it because they're using a lot of metaphors and things that in his lab for some of the things that he's doing in the lab. The characters in this book are not entirely, I want to say they're not entirely fleshed out. They have character, they're all assholes, and I didn't give a shit about any one of them, which I know isn't a reason to hate a book, but it's a reason for why he shouldn't be hanging around with these people. And he is perpetually exhausted, and it's because he's having to deal with this racism. He's also it's like he wants to get away from them, and he he manages to do that, but his friends won't let him go. And he's just constantly in this fight against himself. And then there's some internalized racism from Wallace himself. And there's also an entire tennis match in which we meet one of his friends, Cole, he's also gay, and he's complaining to Wallace about his relationship and how he's afraid that his partner wants to cheat on him or whatever. And he keeps circling the conversation back to that, and it's like 30 pages long. It's this entire chapter right here. See that? This many pages of text about whining, a man whining about his relationship that I didn't give a shit about. So I wanted to rate this 2 stars, but it's the message from the book that really bumped it up for me. I settled on a 3. I definitely will be reading more from Brandon in the future, I hope. I want more books from him, but because there's nothing wrong with the writing, and I can see why this was selected as one of the Booker Prize winners, or one of the Booker Prize nominees, but it's the kind of contemporary that I usually sidestep. Okay, let's talk about this. I made some progress. So Ashley of Bookish Realm has us reading The Count of Monte Cristo, and all I'm just going to tell you is that I'm caught up with the group, although it seems like the Discord pages, people aren't really chatting in there, so I made a note in there, but I'm probably just going to try and finish the book between this month and next, rather than hold out and just read a section per month. But I am caught up, so I'm about halfway through The Count of Monte Cristo. I think it's hilarious that they keep bringing back that the Count is potentially a vampire. It's like every time he goes to an opera house, they are like, oh, he might be a vampire. And I think it's hilarious. It is a little overwhelming because the stories are repeated constantly, and I get why they did that back when this was published. But for me, so far I think that an abridged version of this book would suffice. So if you're interested in reading The Count, I'm already recommending the abridged version. Okay, I have a little friend back here now. He came up freaking out, so I have a ton of footage that I have to cut. But, and he almost got me, like he tried to eat me. But anyway, we're going to talk about the next book, which is the last book that I actually completed this past week, and that is The Shadow King by Maaza Mengistu. And this book is at the top of my list for winning the Booker Prize so far. Anyway, this book is about when Mussolini, takes place during the Mussolini invasion of Ethiopia, which I knew nothing about. And during that time, there were women that ended up taking up arms and to kind of help foil their plot to take over Ethiopia entirely. I absolutely loved this book, and so far this is probably the #1 book that I hope takes the cake and the actual prize winner. Maybe. I'll tell you about my reading plans in just a minute, but so far this is the one that is winning me over. This book actually follows a number of characters, but it is primarily about the Italian-Ethiopian War from the 1930s. Mussolini invades Ethiopia, and there's some clashes between the two armies. The Ethiopians, they don't have a whole lot of weaponry, and they're trying their best to defend their country, and the Italians want nothing to do with that. They want to colonize the area. The book follows a number of characters. To note, Harut and Aster are the two ladies who become soldiers, and they push for this, and there's this driving force that is within themselves, like the death of someone that they loved, and it's just powerful push, and it's heartwarming to me. And then we also have Carlos Bucilli, I think. He's the Italian general who's the driving force of trying to get rid of the Ethiopians in the area, but they're basically ghosts to him. He can't find them, he's having a hard time tracking them, and this book actually it reads incredibly like a Greek tragedy to me at first. And then we get these little photo snippets of descriptions of photos that I assume were from the first chapter in the tin that Harut is carrying around with her. And then halfway through the book, not halfway through, and then we find that part of this book seems to be shadowing Adia. It's an Italian opera. So we get these little chorus snippets, and I feel like that's what we're getting. We're basically getting a text version of an Italian opera. And it's kind of wild. I just really like the way that this was written. And yeah, the characters are hard to swallow at times, but this book is really about the craft of it. And I can see this winning big time. And I'm actually really interested in reading more on the Mussolini invasion. If you have any recommendations for books that deal with that topic, because it's part of World War II, but it's a part that we don't really get a lot of novels about. And I'm really more interested in that at this point, because there is some Nazi issues in here too, but I want to learn more about other wars that were happening during that same time, and this is one of them. And the fact that these women, they were so impactful, but they were just kind of written off in history. I especially would love to know more about this topic in particular, but more Mussolini related novels. So recommendations, 4.5 stars right now. And so now let's just slip into what I'm currently reading. As I noted before, I am still actively in The Faceless Old Woman. Right now I will tell you that I'm leaning into a 3-star rating. It's fine. I like The Faceless Old Woman as a character, but her character feels diluted when she's talking about her past history, because this takes place during kind of like just before the Victorian era, and then through the Victorian eras when she has her heyday as basically a pirate. But the language is so modern, and she talks very much the way that she does in 2020. So it doesn't really fit for me, and it keeps taking me out of the story, and it's also kind of dragging. It's very show don't tell type thing. So I don't mean to completely criticize the book yet, but because I'm not done with it, but I'm almost done. I've got about 100 pages left, and I hope to finish that this evening. I should this week at the very least. If I can't get it done tonight, then I should at least this week. And I'm also, this book, New Wilderness by, is it Diane Cook? I'm in love with this book too. This book is exactly the type of book that I enjoy thoroughly. It's got this wilderness aspect, it's got survivalism, and it's got these great characters. I was just actually considering buying the book, the paperback version. Only seems to be available on Amazon right now, and I was tempted to buy it, but I'm going to hold out for now because I do have a hard copy coming from the library. I requested that book back when I found out about the shortlist, and it's on its way, but my library's extended their hold period for quarantining books, so any day now I should be getting a note from them saying, hey, you can check this out. But the audiobook became available, so I'm listening to this. I will be finishing this tomorrow night, no matter what. I've only got 5 hours left on this thing, and I can consume about 6 hours per night, approximately. I'm nuts about this book right now. Do I think that it's more superior than the other ones, even though I absolutely love this? It's incredibly consumable and wildly entertaining. It's great, but I don't know if it's got more merit on a literary basis than other books in this genre, in this category. So I don't know. we'll see tomorrow. I'm already like leaning into a 5-star rating. I'm just loving it that much. So, mini book haul. You just saw Real Life. I will be returning that later this week. And I did buy this as well. And I have this guy from the library, which is the first book in the Nervous Conditions. I think that's the name of the series. But this is the first book in the trilogy by Tutsi Dangarambanga. I don't know how to say her last name, and I apologize for that. But this came in because I wanted to read that. The last book in the series, This Mournable Body, is here, and that I have available to me on audiobook with Hoopla. But I don't know what I'm going to do about the second book in the series. I may just be skipping over it because it's not very well acclaimed. People are really disappointed by it. And I'm also got here, this book I had to go onto Book Depository because I bought it at the beginning of the month. Not the beginning of the month, I bought it like that night. I bought it because this book is not available in my country, or it wasn't when the shortlist was announced. But anyway, this is now available on Amazon. I don't know if they just suddenly made it available because they knew, hey, people are going to want to read this, and they don't want to have to wait until March if they live in the US to get it. But Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi, and I'm excited to read this. I don't remember what it's about, but this is the other book that I hauled. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate all the new subscribers. I thank you very much to Scott and Nell for sending people my way, and I'll be seeing you soon with more videoage.